of the most frustrating things for a business owner is this. You have good people, and they're not bad people, and they're not lazy. They are not deliberately trying to make your life difficult, but they still do not take ownership. They wait to be told, they hand problems back, miss things that you thought were obvious, complete the task, but do not own the result. Often, they come to you with the same questions. Then they let issues drift until they become urgent. And that's when the owner has to step back in. And the owner thinks, why can't they just take ownership? That question is important, but it's not enough. The better question is this: is happening in the business that makes ownership unclear, unsafe, unnecessary, or unsupported? Because if you do not understand that, you will keep trying to motivate people when what they actually need to do is build accountability. Hi, I'm Phil Badura at Action Coach Business Steps. Today, I want to talk about why good people still do not take ownership. This is a team issue, but it also affects time, money, and systems. When people do not take ownership, the owner loses time, the team loses confidence, customers feel the inconsistency, profit gets eaten by rework, and the business becomes harder to scale. In this video, I want to help you identify the warning signs that ownership is missing, the triggers that commonly create the problem, and what a business owner or manager must do to apply their attention, focus, and energy to be working on the right things. Because ownership is not created by saying, I need everyone to step up. Ownership is created by clarity, standards, authority, rhythm, measurement, and follow through. Let's be clear about what ownership means. Ownership is not just doing a task. Ownership is not just being busy. Ownership is not just caring. A good team member may care and still not own that outcome. Ownership means a person understands the result that they're responsible for, knows what's good, even great, or knows what good, even great looks like, has the authority to act within clear boundaries, communicates early when something is off track, and follows through until the result is achieved. That is very different from being handed a task. If I ask someone to call 5 customers, that is a task. Now, if I ask someone to own the follow-up process so that every qualified lead is contacted, updated, moved to the next stage, and reported on by Friday, that starts to create accountability. The difference is the result. In business, successful owners do not just delegate activity, they build responsibility for outcomes. That is why this topic matters so much. If your team only owns tasks, the owner still owns the business result personally. The owner still has to chase, check, remind, fix, decide, maybe even rescue. But when the team owns the outcomes, the owner can lead at a higher level. So, how do you identify when the team is not taking ownership? Look for patterns, not personalities. The first warning sign is repeat questions. The same person or several people keep asking the same type of question. Not because they are incapable, but because the decision rule, standard, or expectation is unclear. The second warning sign is problems being handed back to the owner. Someone says, what do you want me to do about this? Before they have even thought through the options. Now, sometimes they genuinely need direction, and that is fine. But if every issue comes back without a proposed solution, you are training dependency. That is, dependency on you. The third warning sign is missed commitments without early warning. The deadline passes, then the owner discovers the issue. That is not ownership. Ownership means raising the red flag early enough that the business can respond. The fourth warning sign is task completion without result ownership. Team member says, I sent the email, but the customer did not respond. The job did not move forward and no one followed up. Task was done, but the result was abandoned. The fifth warning sign is vague accountability language. We are looking after it. Someone is handling it. I thought accounts were doing that. I assume sales had followed up. When responsibility lives in vague language, accountability disappears. The sixth warning sign is the owner becoming the checking system. If quality, timing, follow-up, communication and customer care only happen properly when the owner checks, then the system is not strong enough yet. Now, let's dig into why good people still do not take ownership. That is where many owners get it wrong. They assume ownership is mostly a character issue. Sometimes it is. Some people are not the right fit. Some people avoid responsibility, and some people will not step up no matter how clear the business becomes. But in many small and medium businesses, the team is not taking ownership because the business has not created the right conditions for ownership. One trigger is unclear outcomes. The owner thinks the expected result is obvious, but the team member only hears the task. So the owner says, "Look after this customer." The team hears, "Respond to the email." What the owner meant was own the customer experience until the issue is resolved. Another trigger is unclear authority. You cannot ask someone to take ownership, then make them come back to you for every decision. If they have no authority to act, then they learn to ask for permission. Another trigger is unclear standards. What does good, even great, look like? What does done mean? How quickly should we respond? What information must be captured? What is the handover standard? And when must an issue be escalated? If those standards are assumed rather than defined, ownership becomes inconsistent. Another trigger is weak measurement. People pay attention to what is measured and reviewed. If the business never looks at response time, conversion, rework, customer complaints, job completion, data follow-up, or missed deadlines, then the team learns that these things matter only when the owner gets upset. Another trigger is the owner rescue habit. The team brings the problem, the owner gives the answer, the team waits, the owner fixes, and the business moves on. That may feel efficient today, but it teaches the wrong lesson for tomorrow. And the final trigger is fear. In some businesses, people do not take ownership because mistakes are punished, questions are mocked, or the owner changes direction without warning. The team learns that it is safer to wait than to act. So when a good person is not taking ownership, do not jump straight to judgment. Ask, what trigger is causing this behavior? This is one of the most important distinctions for the business owner to understand. Delegating tasks is not the same as building accountability. Delegating tasks sounds like this. Can you call those or these leads? Can you follow up that invoice? Can you check that job? Can you speak to that team member? Can you send that quote? There's nothing wrong with delegating tasks. Tasks still need to be done, but tasks alone do not create ownership. Accountability sounds different. You may lead or you own lead follow-up this week. The result we are looking for is every new lead contacted within 10 minutes where possible, every conversation updated in the CRM, every qualified lead moving to the next step, and the numbers reported by Friday. That is different. It includes the outcome, the standard, the measure, the timing, and then also the ownership. When I work with clients, one of the things we often uncover is that the owner believes they have delegated, but what they've really done is handed out jobs. Then the owner becomes surprised when the team does not think beyond the job. If you want people to think beyond the job, you must give them a clear result to own. This is why understanding ownership is one of the key traits a business owner must adopt to become successful, because the level of accountability in the business usually reflects the level of clarity and consistency from the owner. If the owner is unclear, the team will be unclear. If the owner keeps changing expectations, the team will wait. If the owner tolerates excuses, excuses become part of the culture. If the owner rescues every problem, the team learns to hand problems back. And if the owner never reviews the numbers, the team learns that the numbers are optional. So the successful owner must develop certain traits. Now, the first trait is awareness. You must be able to see the pattern without becoming emotional about it. Do not just say they do not care. Look at the structure beneath the behavior. The second trait is clarity. Successful owners are clear about outcomes, standards, priorities, decision rights, and then also follow up. The third trait is discipline. Accountability is not a speech, it is a rhythm. It is what gets reviewed every week, not just what gets mentioned when something goes wrong. The fourth trait is courage. Sometimes you must have the uncomfortable conversation. Sometimes you must stop accepting those poor excuses. Sometimes you must tell a good person, I need you to own the result, not just complete the task. The fifth trait then is consistency. If you want a team to take ownership, your leadership cannot be random. The meeting happens, the numbers are reviewed, the commitments are followed up, and the standards are reinforced. That is how ownership becomes part of the workplace. Let me give you a practical example. I worked with a business owner who was frustrated because the team kept bringing operational issues back to him. Jobs were running late, customers were not being updated early enough, materials were being ordered late. The owner was constantly being interrupted with questions that should have been handled before they actually reached him. His first explanation was the team just will not take ownership. But when we slowed it down, we found something different. There was no clear job ownership system. There was no simple weekly review of active jobs. There was no agreed red flag process for problems that had started to drift. And the team did not have clear decision boundaries. They were not sure what they could approve, what they could change, or when they had to escalate. So the owner was not dealing with the motivation problem first. He was dealing with an accountability structure problem. We introduced a simple job ownership rhythm. Every active job had one named owner. Each job had a next action, a due date, a customer communication status, and a red flag status. The team meeting changed from a general update meeting to an accountability meeting. And the questions became things such as, what result did you commit to? Is it on track or off track? What is the next action? What decision do you need? And then what will you do before the next meeting? The owner also changed his own behaviour. Instead of answering every question straight away, he started asking, what do you recommend? That one question is really powerful. It teaches the team to think before they hand the problem back. Now, let's bring this back to attention, focus, and energy. Every business owner has limited attention. Every business owner has limited focus, and every business owner has limited energy. If you spend those three things reacting to every mistake, chasing every person, checking every detail, and rescuing every miscommitment, you may stay busy, but you will not build a stronger business. Attention is about what you notice. Instead of only noticing today's problems, notice the repeat pattern. Is this a training issue, a role issue, a systems issue, measurement issue, courage issue, a decision rights issue, an owner rescue issue? These are the questions that need to be asked. Focus is about what you choose. Do not try to fix every team issue in the same week. Choose the constraint that will create the biggest shift. If the biggest issue is unclear ownership of customer follow-up, focus there. If the issue or the biggest issue is missed deadlines, focus there. If the biggest issue is rework, again, focus there. If the biggest issue is that everything waits for the owner, focus your focus there. Here it is important to stand back, look at what is happening in order to identify the real issue. Energy is about what you execute. That is where many business owners fall down. They identify the problem, talk about it, get frustrated, and then go back to the same rhythm. That is, rinse and repeat. Energy means you build the mechanism. You create the standard and you run the meeting. You train the person, you review the measure, and you follow up the commitment. Positive change in the workplace does not come from a stronger opinion. It comes from consistent action on the right things. So, what are the right things when your team is not taking ownership? Look through the four lenses: time, team, money, and systems. Time asks, where is the owner spending time because ownership is unclear? Are you chasing work, checking details, answering repeat questions, attending meetings that should not need you, approving decisions that could or should see it with someone else. Team asks, where is responsibility not clear enough? Who owns the result? What standards are we working to? What decisions can they make? How do they report progress? And what happens when the result is off track? Money asks, where is weak ownership costing the business? Is poor follow-up affecting conversion? Are mistakes creating rework? Are invoices delayed because no one owns the handover? Are jobs running over budget? Are customer issues damaging repeat business? Systems ask, what process is missing or living in the owner's head? Do you need a checklist, a CRM stage, a job board, a meeting rhythm, customer update template, maybe a scorecard, a decision rule, a training process, or a handover standard? The right things are usually not glamorous. They are clarity, rhythm, measurement, coaching, standards, and follow through. But those are the things that change the business. Here is a simple framework that you can use this week. Pick one area where your team is not taking ownership, not 10, one. Then define 5 things. First, the result. What outcome must be owned? And be specific. Second, who's the owner? Who's responsible for moving it forward? Not the team, not everyone, one named person. Third is the standard. What does good look like? What must happen? By when? And to what quality? Fourth, the authority. What can that person decide without coming back to you? What must be escalated? Fifth is the rhythm. When will progress be reviewed? What numbers or evidence will be discussed? And what commitments will be followed up? That is how you move from hope to accountability. And remember this, accountability is not about catching people out. Accountability is about helping good people win by making the game clear. If you're a business owner or manager watching this and thinking, this is exactly what is happening in my business, then the next step is not to blame the team. The next step is to look properly at the pattern. Where is ownership unclear? Where are you rescuing? Where are standards assumed but not defined? Where are tasks being delegated without outcomes being owned? Where is weak accountability costing time, team, money, and systems? And where do you need to apply your attention, focus, and energy doing the right things? This is the work of becoming a better business owner and a better business leader. Not doing more of the team's work, not carrying every issue personally, not hoping people will magically step up, but building the clarity, rhythm, and accountability that allow good people to take ownership properly. Sometimes it is difficult to see the forest for the trees when you are too close to it. If you want help in identifying where ownership is breaking down in your business, schedule a meeting with me. We'll look at your time, team, money, and systems, identify the real constraint, and work out the practical next actions that will help you build ownership instead of owner dependency. So take action and get results.